Hello everybody, welcome back to Slap Tech. I'm your host, Joel Michael. What I have for you today is from Valve. After pre-ordering on the third day and then a long year's wait, I finally had the opportunity to buy a Steam Deck. And now it's here, and for the first time, a good chunk of PC gaming fits between the palms of my hands. Was it worth the wait and the price? Let's find out.
Slap Tech.
This, then, is Valve's bigger, blacker deck. It comes in three flavors, $460, $530, and $650. Yes, the cheapest pack is only $400, but you'll need a $60 SD card to really make use of it, so yeah, it's $460. I bought the $650 version, but they all come with an AMD Zen 2 CPU that runs 4 cores, 8 threads, up to 3.5 GHz. The GPU is one with the CPU and carries 1 gig of dedicated VRAM. All told, it only consumes 15 watts, which is as much as Intel's ultra-low voltage CPUs, and those don't have any dedicated VRAM. 16 gigs of DDR5 cache it up, and on this most expensive model, 512 gigs of NVMe SSD will store your games. The cheapest model only has an eMMC drive, which runs on PCIe Gen 2, unlike this NVMe SSD that runs on PCIe Gen 3. These bits sit underneath a 7-inch IPS touchscreen that does 720p, or 1280 by 800 if you want to be a dick about it. And a 40-watt-hour battery lets you unplug and walk around with its 1.5-pound frame for a while. The AC adapter has a relatively short cord that struggles to reach 6 feet, but have no fear, the carrying case comes with a sock, and a compartment for said sock that makes it easy to carry with you. The battery life of the Steam Deck is none too surprising with a 40-watt-hour rating. Streaming video will drain it in 5.5 hours, 2D gaming is possible for 5 hours, and super high cool complex 3D titles can be played between an hour and 15 minutes to 2 hours and 20 minutes, depending on how much you limit the frame rate. Yes, there are resolution tricks you can employ to eke out a couple more minutes, but by and large, the best battery preservation technique is to cut the max FPS to 30. The extra-wide frame is wrapped in all-black plastic with plastic buttons. The body is mostly smooth to the touch, but does generate some friction when running your fingers across it. The touch screen is obviously where most fingerprints are visible, but they can also collect on the back of the device. The front will stay visibly clean for longer, except for the glossy D-pad and ZB buttons. And compared to other handheld gaming devices, it's heavy at 1.5 pounds or 0.6 kilos. When playing ergonomically, it gets old fast, but it's not heavy enough to wear out your lap should it rest there. Plus, heavy is good. Heavy is reliable. If it doesn't work, you can always hit him with it. Let's see what all those holes in the side do. On the bottom, there's a micro SD card slot. The top is where we find the power button, power indicator, USB-C port, the vent, headset in, and volume buttons. I would have liked to also see a USB-A port for the purpose of connecting keyboard and mouse peripherals. I consider myself lucky to already have a Bluetooth keyboard and USB-A to USB-C adapter for a wireless mouse. Thank you, Samsung, for including that adapter with one of my phones, either the S9 or S22, I can't remember anymore. Anyway, let's talk about buttons. There are a plethora of inputs on here, as well there should be. In addition to the typical Xbox inputs, you get 2 menu keys, 4 buttons to grip the ass cheeks with, and 2 touchpads. The left touchpad is usually relegated to a secondary D-pad of sorts during gameplay, while the right touchpad is the bona fide touchpad and left click when needed. The D-pad feels good, no complaints, it doesn't click as it rolls and takes a little bit too much force to press down, but it's never gotten in the way. The ZB buttons are all very clicky and slightly claustrophobic. Fortunately, I have skinny thumbs, so it doesn't affect me as much. But then we come to the thumbsticks, where skinny thumbs betray. It's only an issue with twin-stick shooters, but while constantly moving the thumbsticks around, I tend to lose grip on the large surface area because my thumbs are only impacting one sidewall or another, not moving the whole mushroom cap like an Xbox controller or the Razer Kishi. And yes, these are the dreaded Q3 thumbsticks with the noticeable dead zone, at least when using the built-in test feature, but I don't notice a difference in the games I play, and I think the large surface area is a much more egregious offense. On the back there are the grip buttons, which mostly come into play as macro keys for the more technologically inclined, or hotkeys when using emulators. So far I've used them for fast forward while PSX emulating, and that's about it. I wouldn't dare map them to quick save or quick load, lest I accidentally save in a tight spot or inadvertently lose a considerable amount of progress. Just be wary of games that heavily employ the shoulder buttons. That's when the grips are accidentally pressed the most. Or if you use one hand to scratch your beard, just don't scratch your beard. Like, ever. And in between everything is a luxuriously large 7-inch screen. Don't get too excited though, it's only luxurious because it's large. In every other aspect it does only enough to be very good, but not great. The ghosting, for instance, is good, but not great. This is definitely a 60Hz panel, and smells like it too. The white balance leans towards cool, and the image is not color accurate, but certainly isn't dull, and gets plenty bright. It's very comfortable to play games at half brightness, and it dims well enough for a pitch black room. Despite being only 800p, it's plenty sharp for the UI and gaming, and looks even better when anti-aliasing is in use. That being said, it's hard to get over the fact that it's a small screen when playing games that don't have a scalable HUD. God bless the games that do, but a small HUD is a real kick in the pants and drags the whole experience down a peg or two. The touchscreen portion of the program is always rather finicky, not kinda finicky or finicky every once in a while, but always rather finicky. More force is necessary than, say, a smartphone, and using the keyboard to type a full sentence will always spark feelings of dread. Nonetheless, it's usable, just takes a lot of patience is all. The speakers carry on the same exact quality feels as the screen. The sound that comes out of them is robust and almost perfectly clean. I say almost perfectly because there's a slight amount of software trickery that pulls bass tones into the treble range. The effects of that will be louder noises will deaden quiet ones, like a loud explosion in the game will cause everything else to become more quiet, but only very subtly in this case. Speaking of volume, the Steam Deck gets pretty loud, but won't fill a room, and thanks to the sheer size of the unit, stereo separation is easy to come by, and the effect works very well. The bass in Calm Like a Bomb by Rage for the Machine is present, but a little weak, and the deep bass in A Perfect Circle's The Package has an audible twang, but very little substance. The heavy guitar pops, but doesn't hit as hard as it would if these noise blasters had a little more oomph and less software interference. I did manage to squeeze in a session of Phasmophobia, which uses the mic, and my playmates told me that I came through loud and clear with the mic at half volume.
This is a test of the microphone on the Steam Deck. I have my AC unit blasting in the background. It's quite loud. I have to raise my voice just to understand what I'm saying.
System performance of the Steam Deck has its hits and its misses. If you're used to high-end flagship smartphones and expect that kind of fluid, intuitive UI in the Steam Deck, keep dreaming. When just browsing the Steam catalog or library, things are moving at 30 FPS or less. It's pretty, but it's clunky. Using the Steam Deck in desktop mode is where things can get hairy fast if you're ill-equipped. Without a compatible mouse and keyboard, getting things done here is possible, but also terrible. When installing emulators and moving files, working without external peripherals is like when you're dreaming that you're working and your objective is clear, but the mouse doesn't work or the spreadsheet doesn't calculate things quite right. In desktop mode, the onboard touchpads can just stop working for whatever reason when third-party software has the hiccups. When you plug in a mouse or keyboard, those always work, and work excellently. As far as SD card performance is concerned, Valve likes to claim that running PC games from an SD card is nothing to worry about. I squeezed Witcher 3 onto a 64 gig micro SD card that touts 160 megabytes a second read speeds, and what I experienced was, yeah, it's fine. There's virtually no difference in loading times and no stuttering when loading textures or other resources. Keep in mind that while sure an NVMe SSD can read around 2 gigs a second, games don't load data nearly that fast because it has to be translated by the CPU, so CPU speed is important, and the Steam Deck has a quad-core 8-thread CPU. Then the data has to be fed into RAM, so RAM is important, which the Steam Deck has plenty, and some of it has to be passed to the VRAM, which the Steam Deck also carries, although not very much, but whatever, it's only 800p resolution, and that diminishes the importance of VRAM. And that's why loading PC games, or any game for that matter, off an SD card is nothing to worry about. That's not to say that you can get away with a cheap, slow SD card. Please don't buy a cheap, slow SD card. For your own peace of mind, if for no other reason. Finally, onto gaming. This is, after all, what the Steam Deck was built for, and unlike gaming laptops, it's built for nothing else in mind. So how does it do? The experience is what's amazing, not the visuals. Get awesome graphics out of your brain. Concentrate on the idea of playing Elden Ring on the bus, on a plane, or sitting on the couch in the den with nary an external display in sight. Older games like Kingdoms of Amalur will play in high details, but newer offerings like Valheim will need plenty of slider bar sacrifice on the altars of framerate and battery life. At least I have confidence that it's possible to dial in comfortable settings for every game, and hell, if enough of these things ship out, developers will be incentivized to make special Steam Deck settings in their future offerings, justifying its existence even more. Back to the device itself, it does produce quite a bit of heat, but the warmth is contained to the middle and away from the grippy grips. The temperature is made apparent when a certain white noise enters the scene. For the first 5 seconds, one might wonder where this disturbance is coming from, only to find out later, oh hey, there's a fan in here, and it's spinning! How cute. In other words, it's rather quiet, and the sound isn't whiny or annoying in the slightest. For the bottom line, is the Steam Deck worth the price tag? Not the $650 model. If I could do it all over again, I would have reserved the $400 one and had a 512 gig SD card ready and waiting. I don't care that the travel case has a different color inside, I don't need the cool profile picture nonsense, and I don't need a non-glossy finish that helps out only a little bit. $400 would be a steal if this were a laptop that had this much power. And since it does use a Windows-like operating system, after shooting it in a kneecap, but not both kneecaps, it can still hobble around and needs help opening doors from time to time, yeah, the price is a great deal. So will I be keeping the Steam Deck? No. You're talking about a guy who can already play games on everything he owns, has emulators up the wazoo on his Galaxy S22, and definitely doesn't have room for another toy in his life. And please don't ask me to sell it to you, I'll find a local friend who wants it. In conclusion, students get 2 thumbs down. Not because it's impossible to get through college with, I'm sure there's a competent word processor to use in desktop mode, but because it's too clunky. Actually, you know what? I dare you to get through a semester with just the Steam Deck. I want to see it, and you know what? So does the gaming community. You, sir, would be a god among gamers. Casual gamers can consider adopting this as a companion device. If most of your PC gaming is done through Steam and you mostly use a desktop and not a laptop, then I'm sure you'll get a lot of use out of this. Competitive gamers will kiss their sweet-ass KDR ratio goodbye. 60Hz, 800p, Bluetooth, mouse or keyboard, yeah, forget about it. The only way you can do damage to your opponents with this thing is if you physically show up to their mom's basement and smack them with it. Even then, it's still not as heavy as a decent mechanical keyboard, so the retaliation would be a bit. Desktop replacement users might find a nifty little tinker toy with this. It has a lot of potential for doing things other than playing games, so by all means, take up a spot in the queue and deprive a worthy gamer who would actually enjoy using the thing for what it's built for, you low-down, dirty son of a gun. I bet you have a mining rig too! I bet you just have a stupid YouTube channel with only a few subscribers, and this is going to be a piece of kit you'll just put in the background of your videos and flex with. And I'll bet that once people catch you in the act, you use projection to blame them for the things that you do. You little Home users, this is what you buy little Johnny when you want to be sure he's only playing games and not watching the corn grow. If you know what I mean. Turn the speakers up, Johnny. Mom needs to know you're playing Overcooked 2 and not trying to catch monkeypox from Uncle Gavin. This has been a review of the Steam Deck here on Slap Tech. I still have a couple more videos to make with this thing, so ask some questions down below while I or some other interested party, hopefully some other interested party, can answer them. If you're considering buying a Steam Deck, you should also consider subscribing to this channel, because reasons. Also, what's cool about liking the video is that you don't actually have to emotionally or mentally like the video. You just click the like button and you'll leave a permanent anonymous mark on the internet. Go you! Thanks for watching, and you guys, have a good night.